Namaste, Michael. How are you?
Wonderful.
So nice
Wonderful.
to see you, Michael Brian Baker. Fantastic to have you on. We just started our program called Bhakti Speaks. You know, we did 11 years of Ram Dass, interviews with Ram Dass. We were so blessed to be able to go out to see him every year in April. We had a 3-camera shoot, and we talked about everything. Nothing was, when we first got together, I said, Baba, I don't want anything to be off the books. I want us to discuss everything, no matter how difficult or peculiar it is for the listener, because we're really not getting to the nitty gritty of stuff. I think this whole spirituality scene is very surface minded. You know, everybody's saying this, I'm spiritual and that, but they're not really going deep. Right? With those 11 years of recordings of Ram Dass are all up on our website and on YouTube. They were very extraordinarily deep programs, and we really got into it. Bless his heart. I miss him every day. And so, in his honor, I wanted to get this Bhakti Speaks back, and you're the first person that I'm doing an interview with. There'll be many more to come, but I'm so pleased to have you here today.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. Let's just talk about the beginnings of Michael Brian Baker, how you got interested in breath.
I was struggling. I'd love to say that it fell in my lap because my parents were devotees or give you some magic, but the truth is that I left home at a pretty early age. I come from a very academic family. I tended to be more on the creative side. That didn't go down too well with mom or dad. And so I left home and I guess, the main battle was education and job and trying to support myself. And I'd achieved that after, probably about 10 years on my own. And I was empty. And but I had found myself working in the hospitality industry, and somebody had come in and taken a liking to me, was fond of me, and he was a Neem Karoli Baba devotee and had been a big supporter of Baba Ram Dass for many, many years. Actually, he introduced you and I, and eventually, after 4 or 5 years, he kind of convinced me to go to Bandara up in Taos, New Mexico, and I had, nothing short of an experience of God, of love that was so pure that I couldn't even really deny it. And the funny thing about it was I'd gotten into yoga like 3 years earlier, down there on Main Street in Santa Monica with some of the older teachers, like not older age, but just in the period of time in West Los Angeles, with Eric Schiffman and Annie Carpenter and Chad Hamrin, and just kind of these Western teachers that really had honed their craft. And it wasn't until that I met Ram Dass that I realized the whole thing was really about love. And from there forward, it was really, I felt very, very complete. But there was a time where I met you, and I was actually out to thank Ram Dass for all he had done for me. And I'd mentioned to you, hey, listen, if there's anything that I could do, let me know. And we got out of the car. We were in Hawaii on retreat in Maui. And you said, well, grab the wheelchair. You were like immediately like, go, and I'll never forget it. It really did have this powerful impact on me because it closed the circle in a way. And you remember we had some pretty crazy things happen on that trip. This was in the earlier days when Baba was just returning from India, and he actually wasn't necessarily doing as well as what he was after you guys kind of brought him, back into health, and and then lo and behold, well, now here's Bhakti Fest born, and I'd already been a devotee for many, many years. And I'd been studying a lot of yoga by then, but was still involved in the primary financial markets. And the time was just perfectly synergistic as I opened up my first experience of opening up a yoga studio that one of the greatest transformational festivals of all time, one of the first, definitely, Bhakti Fest was born. And I don't know if you remember this, but the first couple of years you'd offered me a slot, but I gave them away to somebody else. I just didn't have the confidence to share. And then I eventually came back to you and said, I'd like to share my work. And you said, well, why haven't you been sharing it? You've already had the opportunity. The answer's always been yes. Go ahead, and it was Bhakti Fest and the May Festival, which built me as a more present, compassionate, appreciative human being, full of gratitude for the community that we built, and also the life that I was able to bring my baby into, all of the community and love and practices, and I'll never forget it. And I'll tell you, one of the interesting things about all of this is that I know for many of us, especially with the responsibilities that we have in life, we're always striving for more. And I have to tell you that one of the byproducts of what's happened over the last 24 or 36 months is that I've gotten to do some pretty deep work and realize that my experience has been so spectacular. I actually feel pretty complete within myself. So everything is just kind of icing on the cake from here out. I could go on and on about it, but it keeps cycling through, as Parvati, or as these kind of new books continue to come out, or as I go back and visit the gardens in Maui, there's a continued kind of, there's a renewal of my own faith, because sometimes I forget, and I hope everybody gets the opportunity to experience what we have in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying this is the way, but it's a way, and it's a really, really good way to experience what some people, it would take them 10 years. But for us, it's 3 or 4 days being around these type of great beings and reading these books, and just the general connection of community that we have.
A lot of people ask me all the time, because they understand yoga, they understand chanting, meditation to a certain degree.
Yeah.
When breath work comes up, they always say, what is breath work, and what is the process of doing breath work, and how does that fit in to the yoga practice? Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I fell in love with all the respiratory techniques after having a lot of experience of learning how to move my body properly on the mat without hurting myself, and also doing a lot of different meditation. But I think that one of the reasons why there is that kind of hiccup that you're talking about is because in the West, even the term breath work wasn't really born until the late 60s and early 70s, and it was done in a very shall we call it, kind of therapeutic setting. So it was Westerners who were students of the gentleman sitting behind you making the, Muktananda used to say, don't speak into the space unless it's actually worth interrupting the silence. And so what I'll say is that there was a calling for me to go deeper into the understanding of Eastern philosophy as it related with respiratory therapy, because the problem with this body of work is that it's one of the most profound human sciences, one of the most accessible to us, regardless of our age or our physical condition, and my whole thing with understanding, breath work was to begin with just admitting that it's pranayama, right? There is no breath work without the root understanding of pranayama. They are not different things. The word breath work is birthed out of something that is thousands of years old, and it's referred to as pranayama. The practices or techniques are for the expansion of energy and and obviously oxygenation of the cells and the internal organs in the body to create heat or cooling or again for healing, and then there's later stage pranayama, and what I mean by that is any practice that we do is normally preceded by assessing if we're either left or right nostril dominant, and that would dictate which hemisphere of the brain is getting more oxygen. And so with all of the intellect that we have as these modern day future thinkers, there's the ability to go deeper and balance the left and right hemisphere of the brain, which is obviously related to the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So this is the rest and digest against the fight and flight, or not against, but to find balance in both. And then to create cooling and or heat in the body to create balance, and then slowly move down through the lungs into the abdomen and then down into the sacrum and the pelvis to create heat, the byproduct of which would be pressure and focus, what we call, I'll just say focus and concentration, dhyana and dharana, to focus the energy so that heat and the water, the primary water makeup that's our body, creates steam, and we begin to discharge and or raise what would be stagnant and or latent energy, what we call the highest human potential in the sacrum. And those experiences will bring about spiritual, what we refer to in Eastern tradition as samadhi. In Buddhism, they might call it nirvana. In Christianity, they call it the Holy Spirit. In Judaism, it's known as the Merkaba, or the Tree of Life, the Chariot of Ascension. No matter where you come from, there's a name for it. But most of those experiences ride on the breath. So in the West, you'll hear people saying, oh, it moves a lot of energy, and they'll take you just far enough to where you know that it does something, but you can't quite grasp what it is. When you begin working with the Eastern philosophies and what I'll call the doctorates or the PhDs, like Ram Dass, Vivekananda, Muktananda, Nityananda, all of these doctorates, then the clear explanations begin to present themselves as to this very, very vast human science, which, by the way, is trending these days, right? It's like breathwork's going viral. And if you look at it just even 10 years ago, it was like, well, it's, it's breath work, So there's a lot to share about it. But when I had my experience with it, I had actually been, intermittent fasting is very popular these days. In our work, we call it tapas. Tapas means this kind of weaning or burning of the sensual desires, the physical. And so fasting is part of that. In Catholicism, they call it catharsis, same, again. I'd been doing it 30 days, and I ended up at a retreat center where they were practicing breath work. And I will tell you, I absolutely got more than what I bargained for. I felt like I had a somatic or an emotional release. I cried for about 3 hours, and I really do mean that. And it was so cathartic. I laughed. I wrote creatively. I painted. I got my feet in the mud. I felt like I was literally reborn. Literally, I felt like I was reborn. And this was after I had my experience with Ram Dass. So you can just imagine, it was like everything just came together. All of a sudden, I understood what all of the writings were about when they would talk about these high beings passing the creative force of love or healing vibration, which I thought was just myth at that time. But then I actually experienced it, and I vowed kind of to myself, hey, I'm going to share this with others.
It's interesting because every year, I think you started with us 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
But every year, when I was walking by, looking at the various workshops, yours was the fullest. More people were in your workshop than any other workshop besides Deepak Chopra, of course, right? And they were laying out hundreds of people on the ground. And I noticed when they came out of that class, in that workshop, major transformations in their body, in their look, in their feel, in their speech. It was amazing. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Yes. I would say, for those that know and for those that were with us, one of the main reasons why that grew to be what it was, aside from the again, mental, physical, psychological, and spiritual benefits of what I'll call right respiration or pranayama kriya, is that it was the collective. It was always about the collective. So it was never about me as a teacher or the people who were helping or the music or to have to purchase something new. There was nothing really to sell or teach, but the collective of everybody coming together, that many people in one space to have that experience together. That is what spread the work and created so much almost like, I guess, like a phenomenon, like, breath work kind of became really hot over that decade, at least in our circles.
And it seems to be, it still is, because I understand you're coming to our next big retreat in Baja California.
Finally.
I'm excited about that. Huh?
Finally, yeah.
And so you're going to be having a workshop every day, as I understand that.
Yep.
When you're in a week-long workshop environment, how does the process work when you're giving your class?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because not many people have asked. First of all, everything that I set up based on what's going on in the cosmology over that particular place on Earth. So I'm going to look from the moment that I start sharing to the moment that I stop in Baja, Mexico, and I'll go. The presenters that we've been with over the last decade, we're still close with, and so the advisors like Jeffrey Armstrong or Sam Geppy and these gentlemen, we all kind of back each other and support one another, and so there's a dictated opportunity based on the fact that it's this time of year that we're going to be in Baja, Mexico, that we're going to be with this specific group of people, and we'll start the program based on what the organic, natural energies are from that first day. And what we do is we do a progressive unfolding, because the body, just like our emotions and our well-being, are somewhat layered in sheaths, right? There's sheaths. So let's say the first day you work through some of your physical stuff. It's just like getting on the mat. Like the first 7 to 15 minutes or 30 minutes can be, you have to get comfortable with being a little uncomfortable until you open the body up. It's just like working out or anything else. But in this way, it's much more gentle, right? Because it's not aerobic, it's anaerobic. The work is done laying down on your back, completely relaxed, what we refer to as Shavasana, right? And so we'll work through, Anamaya Koja, or the sheath, which is the physical body, what they refer to as the food body, and you'll feel releases there. Then we'll work through the next layer, which will be energetic, and that might be emotional or mental, or you'll be clearing out stuff that's kind of on your mind, and then the next day we'll work on the nerves. And I always joke around with people and I say, is this getting on your nerves? Great, perfect, then you're doing it right, because you've worked through those first 2 layers. Now you can really give yourself the fine-tuning or the reset that you came for when you make the effort to come to, Baja, Mexico, to be with such incredible teachers. This particular lineup, I was just as excited to get my own work in, meaning, right? Like, I'm going to class, okay? I'm going to be there singing at the top of my lungs so that I can get what I need for my health and well-being too. But that when you talked about watching people leave completely transformed, yes, with a little bit of patience and limited effort. It's not a lot of effort when you're working with this. It's not like people know, a lot of breath works take a lot of masculine solar effort and pushing, and that's not what this is at all. And so we work through a series, and the whole group, because one great mind or one big heart or one pure desire is magnified by more of the same, right? When 2 or more gather in the name of something beautiful, the byproduct is a blossoming Om Mani Padme Om, this opening of the of the flower of conscious awareness. We work day after day towards a communal connection and heart opening, and that's why for many these experiences tend to really open us up for deeper connection with our family, friends, festival attendees, the practices which are being provided, even the way the food tastes, right? Because consciousness rides on the vehicles of the senses. So when consciousness is expanded, so do the senses. So things taste better, they smell better. Your hearing, your auditory senses become sharper, your eyesight becomes sharper, the way you feel is heightened. And so, yes, looking very forward to coming and playing in Baja with everybody.
Fantastic. Now, when one practices breath work, we'll just use that word for right now. Is there anything to fear? Like people are afraid sometimes to let go, of course, and face their demons, right?
Yeah.
Now, how does that work with your practice?
Well, I mean, first of all, fear fear is so healthy. Like what a great gift fear is because it's our GPS system for when there's danger. Unless you're, I mean, if you've really come to a retreat for the purpose of resetting and really up leveling your life experience, there should be some kind of just a little heat there, not necessarily to be scared, but yeah, there should be a little bit of apprehension because things are going to change. And but I've never ever met a community as beautiful, compassionate, um, slow, non-judgmental. And when I say slow, I mean, yes, for many of us, it takes a gentle presence to hold whatever time it might take for you to unfold, to trust again. Um, and and that's what the work is for. Actually, that's what all of this is for, from the physical asana to the mindfulness practices to the breath work, working with the breath, to the Ayurvedic nutrition plan, getting in the water, being around new people that are also dedicated towards the same. This is the perfect environment to bring those fears or concerns for composting, right? It's like, yeah, this is where those fears get traded in for courage. Sometimes they say those who are inspired, spirit favors the brave in a way,
Very true. Because when things come up in our everyday life, for example, fear and other things that we're holding on to, I find it more difficult, most people having to deal with it on their own. It causes a lot of depression, especially these days. But when you're in a small group of people that are focused on doing the same work, everybody's there for the same purpose, to let go, to grow, to go to a deeper place within themselves, yeah, and learn new techniques that are going to enhance their everyday life.
It's an incredible experience to sit and be with a group and hear someone speak their fears or desires into the space. It's like, wow, it inspires me then to do the same, to be more transparent, authentic. It's like that's what creates the safe container. And that's what I was alluding to. Like, this is the perfect place to bring those small, sometimes they don't feel small, but when you're with that powerful of a community, they're dwarfed in comparison by the desire to evolve. So
it's very important, especially to be able to be in with like-minded people.
Yeah.
Like-minded people are not necessarily the people that we're associating with on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. We have to go to work. and be in environments that are not conducive for deep spiritual process.
It's not good. It's not good for you either.
Right.
Those environments, while we continue to do what we have to do to support our children or ourselves or what have you, whatever that story is, that's one of the causes of more fear, more dis-ease, more, of what we don't desire. So to get out, to kind of discontinue that pattern, for a good 48, 72 hours, if you can get out and shift that impact can really make a difference. And just to speak to something you said, because I don't know if people really understand this, but if you're in work every day and you're doing what you do creatively and you're making money and you're paying bills, and let's say that you get, I'm going to say, a week off per year, which is generous for some people, that means that 360 days out of the year, minus weekends where you're probably even doing more work because you need to get caught up, you are in flight. You are not in the repair zone. And it's difficult to get a good night's sleep when you're working 5-6 days a week. And this is the continued way that you function. The experience is in the sympathetic nervous system. It's a fight or flight system to be on the grind and be doing things and on the phone and making things happen. This parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, is the system whose environment is the only environment where it's safe to love. Because you don't have to be on guard. You can actually open up to receiving more. I think, you hear a lot, Shri, about all this manifestation. You don't really need to manifest much. The universe is kind of conspiring to bring us everything that we desire. But if we're closed off because we are in fight or flight, out there on the grind, making things happen, and it's not a safe place to love, it also means that it's not a safe place to receive. And so the act of the power of manifestation, or the law of attraction, all those things have to do with being open and feeling safe and knowing that it doesn't take so much effort and so much concentration to make our lives harmonious.
You brought up an interesting word there, safe. So everybody throws these words out very lightly, I think. Oh, come here, you'll be in a safe environment. But when you get there, it seems there's always an alternative motive by the people that are putting stuff on that are saying safe.
Right.
Either they're making money on the program, or they're trying to get you on their mailing list, or even down to other desires. Let's say. I've been a huge proponent of this space called safe, because I watched over the 30, 40 years how difficult it has been to establish that safe space out there. In ourselves, in our own work, and in group work as well. What do you think the state of the yoga scene is now? And I won't say in the world, let's just say in America, narrow it down a little. Because it's gotten way out of hand.
Well,
so many studios have opened up, closed down. So many so-called gatherings have come, closed down. This pandemic really gave a major reset to everything we're doing, everything we're thinking, everything we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still continuing. It's not over yet. None of this stuff is over. I think this is going to be a way of life with this pandemic and this viruses and stuff like that we're just having to get used to. So it's very hard, in other words, to create safe space dealing with all these outside dynamics.
Yes. While it's very difficult to actually know what's happening, there's definitely enough contrast to suggest that more opportunity is opening up for alignment with purpose over profit, we'll say. While that's true, most of us who've been involved in the yoga business or anything actually service-based know that there's very few people getting rich offering selfless service and teaching yoga or meditation or pranayama practices. This is the way I've looked at things, and I've been very fortunate because I got kind of scooped up by this group, and luckily I was living in a generation where we were the children of devotees of many of these great philosophers, PhDs, or call them saints from the Eastern traditions, and therefore, these my friends' parents were with these saints, and we got to go sit with them and learn from them. Personally, I'd rather study with a black belt in any craft that is rooted in ancient knowledge. Like, I think in our system, we've lost a lot of respect for the wisdom keepers, that there is this new kind of, and especially in the festival scene, where there are young people going and having alternative experiences that may not really be guided with the best intentions. And it sets them in a place where they're going to have to find alternative methods to repair and or to synchronize what they've been exposed to. I don't want to say it's all bad, because I know that a lot of people are doing good work out there. I know that everybody has their experiences of falling down and not showing up so fully. And again, that's kind of grist for the mill. That's what determines our integrity and our character. Do we continue those behaviors, or do we pull ourselves up and say, okay, so hope you learned something, and let's act in a benevolent fashion moving forward, and in service in a way that creates balance and for the benefit of future generations, rather than it being like, I need to survive. I think a lot of challenge with these behaviors is that a lot of these folks are concerned that they're not going to survive, so they're out there fighting and kind of making decisions that are not, they're not helpful. They're not supportive. And I don't want it to give a bad name to yoga, because yoga is not about the messenger. It's not about the teacher. It's about the lineage. It's about the teachings. And yes, human beings are foible. We make mistakes, but there is nothing like being able to sit down with Miracle of Love, Be Here Now, to go to a retreat with Amitananda Mayama, to get a hug, and begin to immerse oneself in these cultures, because a lot of times they're thought of as foreign or religious, but they're not. They're not. They're just different bodies of knowledge from different places on the globe. And we as human beings deserve to be exposed to what humanity's collective intelligence has been exposed to for the betterment of our communities, regardless of where it comes from. You know, it comes from India or Native American cultures, or you could name a million different things, right? That we want to look past being concerned about those that are giving it a bad name, because there may not be the longevity, hopefully there will not be the longevity in those offerings, because they will fall short. And eventually students or aspirants will always be brought back to the source. Like, I'd much rather hand somebody Miracle of Love than try to communicate like Ram Dass did, right? I can monkey it. It's like singing we have this song where it's 42 verses to the greatest devotee on the planet of creative force. And what does it do? It reminds him of who he is. Why? Because he forgets. Because he says, when I forget who I am, I praise you. And when I remember who I am, then I am you. And that doesn't take away from the belief systems in Christian Judeo systems that the creative force is the highest and most, the most high, we'll say, right? The most high. But there are reminders that help us, right? To help us remember when we're in these spaces that we're doing the best we can. Most of us are doing the best we can. And the byproduct of everything that's happening is evolution, like regardless of if we like it or not. We're evolving, So I just like to see more people come into this specific lineage because it's so direct, based on the luck that you had when you were young and the work that you brought over from the Far East. A lot of people don't know those things, which is actually really interesting. The people that you brought over, of whom I mentioned at least one. So what I'm saying to those of you who may be listening right now, we are blessed with the company of a gentleman who saw the benefit in bringing these teachings to the West, brought them to the West, and then eventually created offerings that would allow anybody who was interested to come and experience these teachings. And that's what this retreat is in Mexico. Although I'll say it's a heck of a lot shinier than having to fly 17 hours plus over to India or one of these far off distant countries to have these experiences. This way you get kind of a luxury vacation with incredible food, incredible environment, incredible community. But again, forgive me for repeating myself, I have a tendency of doing that. The byproduct of this is the same experience that you would have if you did do like a pilgrimage.
And in that vein, we are doing another pilgrimage, as you know, Bhakti Yatra, January 26th to February 13th.
The 26th through February 15th, 13th. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And we're taking around 20 people to Mumbai and to the eco village of Radhanaswamy and up into Vrindavan and then up to Rishikesh. And this time we're going up to some of the higher peaks up there, visit some of the swamis that are living in caves, and sitting with them in process. So it's a difficult journey, but the rewards are extraordinary. And as you said, the rewards can come from anywhere. You don't have to go to India, even though personally, I still go to India every year, except for the last couple of years, of course, due to the COVID. But I didn't even miss a beat. When I was raising kids, when I was running businesses, I started in 1980 to go to India, and I went every year. My wife at the time, or whenever, they would say, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'll be back. I'm not going anyplace, but I'll be back." And I came back, everything was the same. Situation with the kids and the business, the stuff on my desk, everything was still there. But what changed was I was able to go deeper into my process and to see things in a different light by going and journeying out and making that choice to have that experience. And I think once we do that, I'll give you an example. I have a very close friend, been my friend for like 30 years. He's one of our production coordinators for the Bhakti Fest. He's been wanting to go to India forever, right? And he's been afraid. Like most people. Most people on the spiritual path, they'll give the classes, they'll give the talk, but they're really afraid to go to India and dive in. Because it's an unknown factor, and they will have to give up certain of their shtick, and they're not going to get away with it anymore, right? Anyhow, he's coming with me. I made it financially available for him to do so, and I'm very happy that he's taking the step out. And of course, he'll be very, like everyone else, we tend to want to make everybody comfortable wherever we go. So if we have a festival, if we have a retreat, if we have an Indian Yatra tour, everybody is looked after utmost. Like for example, in Baja in November, the food there is absolutely fantastic, 3 meals a day. We're on the beach. There's a saltwater swimming pool. We swim in the pool, we swim in the ocean. Oh my God, I was in the ocean every day. I didn't miss a beat, and it was just so delicious getting in there, just letting it all go. It's hard for me to swim here in the Pacific. It's kind of chilly for me. My older age, I don't like the cold too much.
I don't know if that has to do with age. I'll tell you, those warm waters can be, after you've experienced that, it can be tough to get into those colder waters unless you're doing it intentionally to work with ice bath or something like that.
Yeah, well, that's a new thing. Eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to have Win Hof come to one of our festivals in the future. Maybe next year, we're working on it. By the way, we are coming back with a big festival next year. Soon to announce the locations and stuff like that.
Really? That's exciting.
Yes, and I hope that, of course, you're going to be available to be with us and play with us and do the work that you love so much. I notice when you do your work, your breath work, you love it so much because you're helping people. You're not doing it because of what you can get out of it. The joy for you is in the joy that you see in everyone else. And the love that you see coming out of everybody else through your work is your reward. And that's the savor. SEVA is service, and that's the service work we do. We make these things happen, and our joy comes from seeing other people's joy, other people's happiness, other people's fulfillment, and other people's openness. The greatest joy for me is when somebody opens and let's go.
I would tell you that that's the same for me, and also I've had a lot of contact recently with a lot of people who say, I came to Bhakti Fest or I came to Shakti Fest and I was so out of place and I didn't feel comfortable and it wasn't my thing, and then I went to a class with so and so, or I did yoga with this teacher, or I sang, or I took a harmonium lesson with this teacher, and they had a profound experience, like you're talking about this opening. It's not just because there's different types, people resonate with different things, and your opening can come through many different channels, but there's nothing like it in the world. And even after being reasonably successful in business and feeling like I was a good dad and all of those things, like I said, I'm feeling pretty complete. There's nothing in this world that compares to sharing this work in these circles. And I don't know, I don't think I told you this, but one of the last sessions that I did was on my birthday, because it falls on Maharaji's kind of Bandara and my birthday and the festival. They all used to kind of synchronize. And I walked out and the whole group sang me happy birthday. The whole room. It floored me. There's a video of it circulating somewhere, and I my knees buckled. I had to like catch myself. I was so taken back. I don't know if there's anything that I would aspire to or desire in my life ever again that will equal what that communal experience was like for me. And I think that this is what each of us experiences, especially when we show up for retreat, because retreat is more intimate. And when it's more intimate, when it's not big masses of people, it tends to grow trust and confidence and kind of this unification much more rapidly. And I thrive on those type of experiences.
That's why, we decided to do some of these retreats when the COVID hit, because we found having a small group in an intimate setting where you really are safe. We're at an environment in Baja, there's nobody around. It's not in town. It's isolated on 7 acres, fully. The rooms are gorgeous and the bathrooms are fantastic and the food. And it's so conducive to diving deep and letting go of the world that we know of on an everyday basis and trying something new.
May I ask you, just for the folks that may be tuning in and have stuck with us this long, there are many options for coming to this retreat, which is actually unique if you understand event production, which I've learned pretty well over the last 10, 15 years. You have not only housing for, kind of the luxury housing, but also there's tiers, right?
Yes.
And can you just share a little bit about that? Because I know that there'll be people from our community watching that want to know, like, how, and I think there's even, they can find the information by going to bhaktifest.com. Yeah.
We can do that. And all that stuff is handled by my great daughter and her assistant, Nancy. And I stay pretty much out of that. And they're doing a great job. They have it all down. They allow me to come and be the MC when I'm down there. They give me one class. I have a men's workshop that I do only for men, where I can get a chance to get in there and dive deep with them. And hopefully you'll do a workshop for men also when you're coming down, besides your breath work stuff. But to be in an environment for a week with Shiva Ray, this is a world-class yoga teacher. For me, she's one of the top 5 in the world.
Guaranteed.
Amazing. And,
guaranteed.
And her partner, Dimitri, who's going to be leading the meditations in the morning, early. We start early. We start at 7 o'clock in the morning and we go to 10, 11 o'clock at night. Not, you don't have to do everything. You come in, you do whatever you want to do, and go to the beach the other times and stuff like that. Not to worry. We have breath work every day, at least 2 or 3 yoga classes a day. And at night we gather after dinner. We have an incredible fire ceremony to start off and a fire ceremony to end. But every night we're doing chanting and kirtan and dancing and freeing ourselves up with the kirtaniers, who are also world-class chanters and dancers. And we have such a great time. We have a really beautiful time spending together. And it's very loving and it's very exciting. And I'm so happy that you are coming. When I saw an opening there, I said to the girls, get my guy, Michael Brian Baker, in there, because he is the sweetest, most loving guy. And he's been with us from the beginning. And he came out in 2004 when I first moved Ram Dass to the islands and to Maui. And he came and helped me. And I'll never forget that, how we used to have to lift up Baba. And that's how I got a bad back, from lifting him up and taking him out of his chair. And you were there with me, helping it out. And the very beginning times with Ram Dass, nobody else was showing up. And thank you for that again. I always remember that with you. A very powerful time. And just tell you how much I love you is a small thing to say to you, but you're deep in my heart, my brother, and you will always be that way for me. And I'm so happy to see you doing well and thriving and hanging out with your boy there and having a good time. And it makes me very happy.
What can I say? I can't, again, when you have the opportunity to share in this way with somebody who's literally taken you under their wing and made you, or given you the opportunity to become who you dreamed of and to reach your, a higher potential, that's priceless. And there's very few words that I can say to you except for God bless that sweet soul and all that you've done. I feel like a lot of people don't understand what it actually takes to juggle what you do, and I'm really glad that you have Bella and Nancy and these different people supporting right now, because a good 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of service should be enough. After 50 years, it's like, can I please get somebody to do the slideshow or whatever? I think that's reasonable. And I love you so much, and I want to take this opportunity, because it's just rare, just to tell you, you changed my life. You put me in charge of my life's greatest teacher, to serve him and carry him and put him to bed and bathe him. And that experience made my life complete. And then to bring me in and allow me to share these crafts within a festival environment, I can't even go there, because now, with the certification programs and all the stuff that we've been able to create, I just, words can't really express how much I actually love and appreciate and respect and understand what it means to, somewhat what it means to be you, and how much you've brought to people.
Thank you so much, Michael. I look forward to seeing you. A couple of months, it's coming up soon.
Yep.
Big hugs and big love to you and your family.
Thank you.
Anything you need from me, please reach out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You guys get your tickets for Baja, because they're going to go quick. Don't think about it. Get your tickets for Baja. See us down there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.